Hello, everyone. We're going to wait just a few seconds for other people who are just joining us. Thank you for joining us tonight. Good evening, Olga. Thank you. Now, I think I can start now. We have 15 people in the audience. We might get some more, but I'll just start the introduction. My name is Liliana Fernandez. I am the Training and Integration Officer at the Immigrant Council of Ireland. And together with my colleague Teresa Buskowska and Dr. Valesca Lima from Dublin City University, we have been organizing this webinar series, which are part of the research project funded by the Research Council of Ireland. This project has very clear objectives, which is to encourage more people from a migrant background to engage in politics in Ireland. So in this second webinar, we are going to focus on the political participation of migrant women. In particular, our speakers today will share a little bit about the challenges, barriers, and opportunities in politics for migrant women in Ireland. Why do we need to focus on this particular topic? Because despite some progress for women in politics, mostly achieved due to gender quotas, women remained underrepresented in political institutions, particularly women from minorities and marginalized groups, such as migrant women and women of color. Migrant women are particularly excluded from influencing policies and are often left out of key decision-making that affect the life of women and men. But this could be changed, and that's why we're here today. We have 3 speakers for today. We have Sandra Ruiz, a migration and gender specialist. She was selected as Social Democrat local candidate for Tallaght Central in 2019, South Dublin Council. And as Brian Sheehan, SD General Secretary, said, she displayed extraordinary commitment, dedication, and courage in campaigning in a tough election and in advocating for a better, fairer, inclusive Ireland, and came close to winning a seat. We also have Megan Flynn Dixon, who is a management consultant for the non-for-profit sector with a background in international business. Originally from New Zealand, Megan applies her managerial skills to the public sector, helping the realization of private sector efficiencies in the public realm. Megan was first involved in refugee support in her native New Zealand and has taken up this community work here again in Ireland. She's involved in the Galway County Council Public Participation Network and strives to increase migrant and marginalized political empowerment. In conjunction with other migrants, Megan has founded the Galway-based think tank and intercultural consultancy firm Diversity Matters, which specializes in facilitating culturally appropriate participatory training that is highly effective in harnessing the benefits of a diverse workforce. We are waiting for Councillor Uruemu Adejinmi, but
I'm here.
Oh, she's here. Hi. Oh, sorry. Welcome, Councillor. Sorry, I didn't see you before.
Apologies. Yeah.
We have Councillor Uruemu Adejinmi, the first migrant and Black female to become mayor of Longford Municipal District, and also the country's first female African mayor. Her journey into politics began in 2016 when she supported a candidate in a local election. Shortly afterward, her neighbor asked her to join Fianna Fáil. In 2018, she undertook an internship with the Immigrant Council of Ireland, shadowing Joy Flaherty while he was a local councillor. In 2020, Mr. Flaherty became a TD and Ms. Adejinmi was co-opted to his seat. She's currently the mayor of Longford. And now I'm going to leave you with our moderator, Dr. Valesca Lima, and we'll start the conversation with our speakers.
Okay, thank you so much, Liliana. And also I want to welcome everyone who is here with us this evening. So our conversation today, it's going to be about women's participation in politics, especially women that they are from a migrant background and they're here in Ireland. So we have those three great speakers this evening, and I'll have a few questions for them. So this is going to be a type of interview panel kind of event. So at the end, I'm going to leave some minutes so people who are here with us in the audience can make some questions. So if you have a question, just type it. You can just type it on the chat. Okay, so first question, just some kind of warm-up question. I think it would be very nice if you could share with us how exactly did you get engaged in politics? So what was your motivation, Sandra? I'm going to start with you. So you moved to Ireland. What made you a political person?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be here. So back to your question, for me, it was no part of my plan. I never thought that I will be running for the election. So it just happened a couple of months before I actually started my own campaign. Then I decided then I will start this new journey as I'm running for the election in 2019. I suppose the reason why I decided to run for the election was that different things that happened at the same time. And one of them was this campaign that the Immigrant Council of Ireland was running in 2018, I think. And it was called the campaign Register, Vote and Run. And I was part of that campaign. And at that point, I was already 10 years living in Ireland. And I didn't know that I had the right to vote, to register to run and vote. I didn't have that information. So for me, it was a starting point, because that was changing my sense of belonging. It was changing my sense of that relationship with Ireland. So that was crucial. But then I was also, as part of my activism in a professional and personal setting, it was attending different events that they were empowering and encouraging women to run for the elections. So when I was going to this panel and I was listening to this amazing speaker coming from different parties and different backgrounds, there was something there that I was missing, that I felt unrepresented. I was like, yes, but there's something missing here. So then when I was kind of putting my hands up and I was asking questions, they were coming back to me and say, well, maybe you should try and to do it. But at that point, I was like, no way, like it was a crazy idea, to be honest. But as the time was going and was passing by and I was thinking about it, I felt somehow a sense of responsibility, that responsibility that was making me think that I have to stop complaining and I have to do something about this. If there is a lack of representation, there is no way that I could keep kind of complaining and say there is this problem here. So I decide to take action, and that's why I run for the election.
Mm-hmm. That's very, very relevant. And what you said about having access to information makes just a huge difference for migrants. And can I ask you, Uruemu, what was your experience? Did you have the information you needed? You had to go after that information? What's your story?
Okay, thanks, Valesca, and for moderating, and good evening, everyone. Delighted to be with you this evening, and hi to Sandra, great to see you again. How I got involved in politics actively was, I think Liliana said a bit of it in my introduction there. It was just, on Facebook, the manifesto of a candidate in 2016 popped up on my feed. Before that, I would just be participating. I was on the voters register and I would vote at every election. When I can't remember now when I discovered I was eligible to vote, but I registered when I was able to. So I've been on the register, I've participated. I went from knowing no one on the ballot. I'm just like, okay, this face looks nice. I give them one. I didn't know why it was preferential, because when you go into the polling booth, they just tell you, okay, your highest preference, give them one, and then give 2 and 3. So I would just go, okay, there's a woman, and give the high preference, and whatever. And I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and think, geez, why do I have to put so many numbers? I'm tired of this. And I just leave the rest blank, not understanding the PRSTV system. And so when I got involved then from 2016, actively canvassing my friends in Longford to support this candidate that I got to engage with in discussion on Facebook. I still didn't have like an understanding of the voting system in Ireland. After the exercise, and I remember the siege of Kina in 2016, because I think the general elections count was took the longest in Kina, because there were a couple of recounts which took hours, and every morning you'd hear on the radio, this TD has arrived in Longford, and nearly all the national TDs were elected TDs from different constituencies arrived in Longford to support their candidate who's waiting to be named. And so that was my vivid imagination of, or my vivid memory of the elections then. And shortly afterwards, my neighbour, who was a family, or who is a family friend, said to me he didn't know I had an interest in politics, and invited me to join Fianna Fáil. And I am very active in the community. I get involved in, in the markets, in whatever activities being organised, just to participate and I suppose promote inclusion and integration within Longford. So I said, okay, in my head is another community group to be engage with and meet new people. So I signed up and, was participating. And then in 2018, my friend sent me a link to an internship that was being run by the Immigrant Council of Ireland, and I signed up for it. I remember fondly when I was sending my application, I had a grin on, and I was typing to say, oh geez, you don't even need to organise a councillor for me to shadow. I already have one signed up, and this is his name. So I just need you to approve so that I can run the internship programme, or I can run in the programme. And thankfully, I got in, and there were a good few of us, and it was nice. I got to meet Annie as well, and I think I got to meet Sandra as well, and a few other candidates who ran in 2019 as well. So in that process of doing the internship, I got to have one-to-one conversation with the local councillor at that time, and that was when I learned about the different stages of the different elections that are run, the referendum, the EU elections, the general elections, and the local elections. And then the Immigrant Council actually visited Longford and ran a training program to familiarise migrants of the PRSTV system, and we did a practice of voting, which was great to have that support from a non-governmental organisation that had, no stake in any party, just to encourage migrants, which was great, and it was well received in the community then. And so when they came to candidate selection then for the 2019 election, I suppose because I had demonstrated willingness to get involved, to learn, to understand the voting system, and again the traditions in Ireland, I think that gave my party then the confidence to approach me if I wanted to be on the ticket, and of course another opportunity to serve the community. And I agreed. We got the nominations, thankfully, and here I am, councillor and Cllr of Longford Municipal District, and it was a huge moment, you know, even getting onto the council. And I might just stress, you know, in 2019, I didn't get elected. I was 10th out of 16 candidates. There were 7 seats. So I think my elimination was the last before the other 7 got elected or occupied the seats. So, you know, and I didn't take that as a failure too much. Like, I was disappointed I didn't get elected at that time, but it was a learning experience for me. And a takeaway for me at that point was the inspiration that younger people had, like people in second level, because I did have a lot of African students say to me that they were so inspired to see somebody the same color of skin as them on the polls, you know, besides candidates. Well, and for me, that was a huge win. That was a key success for me, to be able to even put that memory or put that image in the minds of young people, for them to see that, okay, they can aspire to anything. So I was relieved when election came, to be honest, because, you know, again, the campaigning and canvassing in Nigeria, where I was born, is totally different from Ireland. You have to go door to door and sell yourself to, like a salesperson, essentially, to each.
It's very different.
So, yeah. So, and those were great takeaways for me. And at that time in 2019, I resolved to keep working to build my profile from what I had got to towards 2024 then, because I wasn't deterred. I was even encouraged more. And then in 2020, thankfully, I had another opportunity where I got co-opted to fill the seat of the candidate. And that's a benefit of, you know, aligning with the party, because opportunities can present themselves from within the parties as well. And I just want to encourage I know it's going to come further down, but just, if you're considering it, you know, even if you don't get elected, it's not the end of the world. There's so many steps and so many wins you get along the way in interacting with people you wouldn't ordinarily interact with on a daily basis. So there's so many benefits from even participating in the electoral process as a candidate. So
yes. I think from what I understand from your amazing story, it's really inspirational, and it's also a combination on having opportunities and say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
To spaces, to opportunities where you can use your leadership skills, because this is something that I saw recently. Someone was making some comments on the news that there is no shortage of talents among the migrant community, but then when you look for leadership, this is very hard to develop. So now I want to ask Megan, what was your experience when you came to Ireland? How did you start engaging in politics? Can you share your story with us?
Thanks, Valesca. I feel like I should be a participant rather than a panelist, because I'm learning so much from listening to Uruemu and Sandra. I'm much earlier on in my political career, if you like. I'm from New Zealand, and I've been in Ireland for 4 years. I've been involved in community work, for a long time, both in my home country and since I arrived in Ireland. And I've always had an interest in politics, and always followed political action in the different countries that I've lived in, and really taken, kind of pleasure in learning different political systems in different countries. In Ireland, for the community work I was doing, I got involved in the public participation network here in Galway. And when I first went to some council meetings, I was just really shocked by the lack of diversity in those meetings. So I'm a privileged white migrant, and English is my first language. So a lot of the barriers that would be present for a lot of other migrants, I don't face those same barriers. But even I was somebody who was different to most of the people in the council. And I was just really shocked by that. I wouldn't see that in my home country in New Zealand. And it just doesn't reflect what we see on the streets, in and around Galway. And the other thing that happened for me was in that 2019 election, big canvassers were coming to our door, and I didn't understand that I could vote. I knew that my husband, as an Irishman, could vote, But when each of the candidates come to the door, I would listen to their story, and I wanted to know what they would do for my community. And I was thinking I would share that with my husband and what have you. But then I would say to them at the end of their spiel, thanks very much, I'm from New Zealand, I can't vote, whatever. I just wanted to hear what you had to say. And all of them said, oh, okay, that's fine, and walked away. And then finally, a candidate came along, an independent, and she said, yes, you can. If you're a resident, you're absolutely entitled to vote. And she gave me the forms there and then. So of course I voted for her. But I was just so, at that point, I was angry that the other candidates who had come either didn't know that I could vote or didn't want me to vote. And both of those scenarios made me really cranky. So the combination of having that experience with the PPN and seeing basically no diversity represented in council, and then knowing that the candidates really didn't value my input, made me kind of, I guess, supercharged for getting more involved. And I, like Sandra and Uruemu, I had fabulous experiences with training through the Immigrant Council of Ireland. I thought that I wouldn't be eligible because I was, like I say, I was consider myself to be a privileged migrant. But the team at Immigrant Council have been amazing in supporting me, and I've kind of almost signed up for every program they've had. And then it was even through the Immigrant Council that we understood that the Green Party were looking for migrant women in rural areas, and I fit all of those bills. So I said, sure, that'll do me. I think it might have been, I can't remember if it was Uruemu that I heard speaking once, or maybe it was Adejinmi Adenuga, I'm not sure, said that it kind of doesn't matter which party you choose, because it gives you a platform, and I think that was a really good piece of advice. I see Uruemu nodding there, maybe that was her, because any party I could find something to align with, but I was just happy to align with a party that wanted me, and then I can use that platform and take from that party what I want. So I'm very early on my stages. I've taken the role of a local electoral area representative, so an LEA rep, and I was just only signed on to that role at the end of last year. So I'm kind of not even 6 months in. So it's all very new. I've done a little bit of canvassing for other people in the party. I just got myself some business cards done there a while ago. So I do need to get out there and start knocking on doors, and it's a bit nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting, and it's great to be here with Uruemu and Sandra today and learn from them.
Yes, so it's very nice to hear your experience, and I think from your comments, there was also this moment where you realized that you could vote and that you could participate, which makes a difference. And also it's interesting to note that some charities or NGOs work that they try to involve more migrants. They have a really key work to play, and they have been very, very helpful in that. So I think the next question I want to ask is about electoral politics. So when we look at the number of migrants in Ireland, for example, there is an issue of representation. So, and when we look at the number of women who are in politics, and here I'm speaking about women in general, the last numbers I have is that, for example, in the last local elections, 28% of the candidates were female. So among the migrants that were running for election between men and women, this number is 38%. Okay, so it's still a bit low. But then in the last local election, 6 women they were elected. So and the total number of seats is around 1,000 or very close to that. So basically, representation of migrants is very low, and especially when we look at women's representation from a migrant background, this is even lower. So how can you bring more women migrant into politics? How can we encourage then which kind of resources they need, and especially what's the role of the political parties in that? So would you have, Sandra, experience with this, with joining a political party, which resources they would offer and what else they could do? What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I think if we want to bring more migrant women into politics, there is an initiative like the one that the Immigrant Council of Ireland is doing. I think it's extremely important. This type of webinar, workshop, and other, and the campaigns. Then first of all, we need to inform people that they have the right to run for the election. because it can sound like a bit like silly to even think about that, but there's so many people, so many migrants, and they don't know that they have the right to vote and to run, even though they have been in Ireland for many years. So that is crucial. And also we need to, and again, I know the Immigrant Council is doing that, is that type of workshop where you are training migrant women to run for the election, and to run, and not only the type of information that you get in the books. So if you are learning about politics, or if you go to university, there is the type of information that you learn, but then there is the one that is not in any book that you cannot find everywhere, but it's the real way to run a campaign and to run and to be part of a party and to be into politics in Ireland. So that is also very important. And a third element that I think is very important, but also very difficult, is to get them to get a support to the parties and help them to support migrant women. But that is very challenging. And I just remember when I was running in 2019, Social Democrat was a very new party, and there were so many new candidates, and they were coming from different backgrounds. And even the headquarters was trying their best to support people. They could not even reach everyone because there were so many new candidates, and then it was very difficult for them to support people. But even if they have the resources, the reality is that there is no one document that you can put together that will tell you how to support migrant women, because my needs are probably very different from Uruemu, Councillor Uruemu, right? And it will be very different from Megan. So there is no one way to support migrant women, such a thing. Like there's no such a support, and you can give it to the parties and say, there you go. This is the way that you can support migrant women, because we all have their very different needs. So, but there is something about that I noticed that even after the campaign, that the Social Democrats, they were coming back to me and say, how can we do this? How can we improve the support and to support migrants, migrant women and yourself and people with your profile? So I think there is something about that has to be done, but I don't have, unfortunately, I don't know how to do it. So I don't know what to say there. But yeah, so that's me.
No, I think everything you said makes a lot of sense, because there are several challenges, and you noted very well that not all migrant women, they have the same needs and they face the same challenges. So can I ask you, Uruemu, as a member of a political party, did you find those supports, and what political parties could do to support and even attract more migrant women?
Yeah, so it's a very, very expensive undertaking, running for election, and until today, I don't know why it's so expensive, because again, it is something that legislation can take care of easily, in terms of putting a ceiling on spend, and putting a cap on, say, the number of posters you can put up, the number of leaflets you can hand out, which would then make the exercise, make it a more level playing field for everybody, because as immigrants, we don't have that advantage of having family connections, to have relatives in the local community. So it's a Herculean task running for elections, and those kind of ceilings and caps that the government can place during election time is something that will be helpful to migrants, especially. But whether the will is there, because obviously politics, like every other sector, is very competitive. Everyone has a huge ambition to, be elected, be head of the pack, in fact, people even compete to have the highest preference votes at first count, and all of that. So certainly my experience was, the challenge of of having enough cash to run a smooth campaign. And another thing my experience was, the huge gap in terms of familiarity within the grassroots of the incumbents who would have served so many years and already know the people, already know how the land lies, already know what the issues are in detail. So they already have that head start. So perhaps maybe, or some, an advice I can give, which is a benefit of COVID, is, the fact that a lot of council meetings are available online now. So I would encourage migrants specifically that have an interest to send an email to the council administrator and request a link to observe the meetings virtually, because that is something that would really help them to start, understanding the process. Because even when I got co-opted, I already had, they already had nearly a year's head start on me. And then I had to learn quickly. I had to catch up. I had to, try and start making myself relevant within the community as well. So definitely that would be a recommendation that I would give migrants. And I suppose from the point of view of the Immigrant Council, perhaps maybe even collating the names of the different administrators for the different county councils, and so that everybody has that email, where if you're based in Leitrim, for example, you have the contact details and you can request a link for the council meeting. And they usually, I think at the start of each year, they agree the date and time for every council meeting. So that'll be something that will certainly be useful. And another challenge for me was really getting the support in terms of manpower, obviously, because you have to go door to door, you have to try and reach the breadth of your electoral area. I even got lost one of the days when I was canvassing, and wandered into another electoral area till I saw one of my Fianna Fáil colleagues, and he said, "Geez, you're in my electoral area trying to get votes. You're not going to get votes here," So it was fun, but they directed me back to my limit there as well. So a lot of help I got from my political party was with printing my leaflets and printing my campaign material, and even parties as well get a percentage allocated to them for each candidate as well. So there is they subsidize a lot of some of my posters and all of that. So those are the benefits you get from aligning with the party as well. And I always maintain that it doesn't matter what party you are. Every party has good uns and bad uns, and when you come in, you have an opportunity to bring forward the positive changes you can make, which will help your party reflect a positive light in the community. And something we've recently done in Fianna Fáil is launch a Fianna Fáil Migrants Network, which is another way to reach out to migrants in the community. And like that, just taking on from what Sandra has said, that migrants, particularly migrant women, have their specific needs and specific challenges and specific supports, and having that migrant network would be an opportunity for us to put our heads together, come up with motions. Like we have our Adesh coming up in June, we can put forward a motion that will facilitate more inclusion within our political party, which would then filter into policies, which will mean that there are more inclusive policies for the country at large.
Yes, I think political parties, they have a lot to offer, because they have the resources, they have the networks. And from the research I did for the Immigrants Council in 2019, a lot of candidates, they mentioned that the support that they got from the party made a huge difference, even if they were not elected, because there is a learning process, and also structures that not just give you information, but also the confidence to do canvassing, which is very challenging if you're doing for the first time, I'm sure. So someone was asking here in the chat, because we are already on the topic of political parties, if we know the breakdown of membership of political parties. Actually, we don't. And this is one of the challenges, because usually parties, they don't collect information on the backgrounds of their members. they mentioned several issues. One of them are ethical issues, but the fact is that we just don't know. Maybe they have some idea, but in general, at least this information is not released to the public. So, and the Women's Network, they do have an impact. I think our speakers, they have already mentioned that. And the second question here in the chat is also about those networks. So it's very hard to measure the impact, but then when we hear experiences from past candidates, they always mention how those networks gave them the information and support they needed. So can I ask you, Megan, what's your view on the role of the political parties, and can they be more active in bringing migrant women into politics? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I answered the call for the party that I'm with. They were looking for, specifically for migrants. But then from beyond that, once you're inside the party, you know, a little bit like Uruemu was saying in terms of learning the ropes inside county council, you've got to learn the ropes inside the party, figure out who's who, you know, who your allies are going to be. And you know, I'm still figuring all of that out, so it's kind of a little hard for me to answer. Suffice to say that, you know, locally here in Galway, we don't have access to council meetings online. And even in trying to do some research myself about my electorate and some issues in my electorate, I've raised an issue with both the city and the county council, whereas I would be eligible to run for the county council. But I've raised the issue with both councils because all of our minutes for our meetings that go back that are online, they're in a this is very technical and probably very boring, but they're in a non-searchable PDF format, which means they've been printed, signed, and then uploaded as a scanned document. So I can't search my electorate or my villages or towns in those minutes. So it's all publicly available, yes, but as a migrant, as a blow-in, as somebody who hasn't lived here for very long, I literally have to read tens of thousands of pages if I want to learn about what's been happening in the council, in my electorate. So that's a real barrier. So, you know, what can parties do? I think, you know, maybe helping to lift those kind of barriers and put pressure on all of the councils to make sure that we have the access to that information.
Yes, this is extremely relevant because the lack of information is an issue for most of the migrant candidates. I had the pleasure to speak when I was in my interviews. So something that you have already mentioned, all the three of you, are the several challenges that you faced. So I would like to speak about those challenges. So something that came really strongly on the report that I did for the Constitution 2019 was how can women candidates do some kind of preparation if they are planning to run. So this is 2022, the local election is in 2 years' time, more or less. So maybe especially some people who are here with us today, they are planning to run. So what are the challenges that you face when we're running? So for example, do you had issues with childcare? You just didn't know how to organize the campaign. So what was that challenge? And hopefully, if you can share with us, were you able to overcome that challenge? How did you do it? Sandra, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm putting a list here of challenges that we were facing, but I don't want to forget to mention. But I mean, just some of them definitely, and Councillor Uruemu already mentioned that, is about raising money. And I think that's something that is very important to mention, that when you are raising money, you cannot take money from outside of Ireland. So people that they are not Irish, they cannot support your campaign if they are living outside of Ireland. So in my case, my family living in Spain could not support my campaign. And this is something for many migrant people, I think is a big barrier that they need to face, because obviously we don't have the same network in Ireland, and we don't have the same people, and they will be willing to support a campaign. And the fact that we cannot rely on our families and they're abroad is a big issue. The second one is the lack of network. And I remember very, very well a case where I was knocking at a door and I was talking to a lady and she said, yeah, I like you. But to be honest, my neighbor that just live there around the corner, her daughter is running for the election. So unfortunately, I'm going to vote for her. and not for you. I don't know if she gave me the vote number 2, but that idea of I'm gonna vote her because she's my neighbor and I know her, make me to realize that I didn't have my aunties, I didn't have my friend from school, I didn't go to high school in the area. So all that kind of network was not there for me, because people, especially in local election, they will vote the people as the one that they know, the faces that they're familiar with, you know.
Yes.
So my face was not familiar for people. So I have to start from very scratch, and I have very little network around. The other one I already mentioned was the lack of knowledge. I joined the, as I say, I think it was in November when I decided, together with the Minister of Joy O'Brien, that before was working for the Immigrant Council of Ireland, and we were sitting together, and he was helping me to map out the strategy to and all the different parties, and that was back in November. And then I say yes, and I got elected, and I have to learn in that short period. I have to learn how politics was working, how to run a campaign, to put a campaign together, but to put people together. So it was in a very short time. I have to learn all of that. So if people can have more time than only a couple of months, is probably a good advice. Childcare as well was another big barrier. Again, there were people, I didn't have the money to pay for that. And I didn't have a good amount of funding, a budget in my campaign. But what I did instead, and there were some friends and they were not really comfortable going to knock the doors and to be there canvassing with me, but they were willing to stay with my girl, because at that point I have 2 little ones, like I think they were maybe 2 and 5 years old. So while they were coming to my house to stay with my girl, I was just running, even by myself, just to knock a few doors. And that was extremely important. I think the best advice that I got from a former councillor in South Dublin City Council, from Social Democrats councillor, was just knock the door as many as you can, like just go out and talk to people, just talk to people and knock the door. And that's what I tried to do, and I did. And I think it went very well. So that's the main challenges that I faced. But I have to say, and I wanted to say in relation to the previous question, there's something that it was there, and it was a support, and it was not created for anyone, but it was somehow there, with the support from other migrant women candidates. Even if they were running for different parties, there was somehow a connection between us. And maybe Councillor Uruemu, you can, you let me know if I'm wrong, but it just felt when we were together, there was automatically that feeling of we are here on this, and that support and that sisterhood that was really positive, even though again we were running for different parties.
Thanks, Sandra. That was a lot in terms of the challenge you had to overcome. Thanks for sharing that, and that was very interesting what you commented about the network of support from other candidates. It's great to know, and actually to let people know that this exists, and it's really great if we can mobilize this network for the next local election, I hope. So Uruemu, can you share with us the challenges you faced and how you were able to overcome some of them at least?
Yeah, absolutely. And just Sandra said a lot of it, so I'll just add a few. One big challenge for me was time. So, which is why this kind of session, this kind of event is so useful, because like if you are interested, what I would suggest is even before you're confirmed by a party, even before the elections are called, start going to canvass, to meet people, to practice, speaking to people at the doors, because again, the incumbents have a head start because they are already engaging with people in the community. So that was a huge challenge for me. The time, the window, I had about a 3-month window from when I was confirmed by my party to run and up to the election itself. So it was a very short time to cover my electoral area. I didn't cover the entire electoral area, which again, like Sandra said, is so important to get in front of as many people as possible. And one lesson or one advice I was given as well is it doesn't matter who is at the door, be it a child or an adult, assume that that person has a vote and, you know, introduce yourself, sell yourself to them, because the number of examples or the number of tweets I've read of people saying, you know, they opened the door and whoever it was, the candidates assumed that they were too young to vote and said straight away, is your mother in or is your father in? And even women opening the door and somebody saying, is your husband in? Like, okay, the man will direct the vote for the household. So, you know, just little mistakes like that. And I have actually literally met a lady at the door and just introducing myself, I'm running for election. And she said, you're the first person that's come to my door, I'll vote for you. It can be that easy. And, you know, it can be a child you meet, and even if when you introduce yourself to the child and say, you know, I'm running for election, what's your name, what school are you, and then you can go, are your parents in, how many can I speak to somebody, at least the child will even have a memory of you. And then if it's an adult that looks younger, then you haven't kind of shot yourself in the foot by making that that assumption, because every vote counts. I was in a meeting yesterday and they were saying that somebody got elected and the difference between themselves and the last, they got the last seat and with the difference of 6 votes. So you can imagine how, you know, important every vote is. So another thing was the local elections, even though you're within a party, it can be even, I'd say it's even more competitive within your own party than, you know, outside of your party. And it leans to what Sandra has said, that as migrants, we had kind of a sisterhood. We had a bond where we kind of supported each other and kind of fell back or, you know, leaned on each other a bit just to give us that confidence boost. It is so competitive, like I said before. So as many of your friends as you can get involved, and it's so important to do that. Another huge challenge I had was I didn't realize the number of migrants that weren't on the electoral register. And that was something that I discovered while I was canvassing, and people were like, no, I've never voted and all of that. So it was, you know, even looking at, okay, hopefully I'll get so many migrant votes, but if they're not on the register, then, you know, what's the use? So even convincing them to fill the forms, to get to the Garda station, to have it stamped, and then bringing it to the council, that was a huge challenge for me as well. So again, that's an advice for anybody that is interested. Everybody, you know, that's over 18, get them on the register. Yeah, my inexperience was also something that was a barrier for me as well, again, compared to the incumbents. And then I was told by somebody in the party, a lot of people within the party wait till about 2 weeks to the election and see who's the popular candidates, and then they row in behind that candidate as well. So it's so important to project yourself as the popular candidate within your parties. And indeed, if anybody chooses to go independent, you know, you can still work with that as well, but you need to build it up. And I think after the elections, I learned that the wife of one of the candidates actually texted everybody in her contact list to say, please vote for my husband the night before the elections. I didn't do that. And I thought, oh my God, that is something that's so easy. You just ream off your text to everybody, you know, please vote for me, thank you, and whatever, as a reminder as well. So yeah, those are the few things that, oh, and another thing that I experienced was, you know, the tradition in Ireland, when do you start voting, or when is a good time in the evening to go knocking on doors, because you get some kind of stares like, what do you mean coming to my door at this time? And then when do you stop? you know, do you stop when it gets dark? Do you stop at 8? There is kind of an unspoken rule there where beyond this time you shouldn't be knocking at anybody's door, because, you know, it might not be, it might not go well in your favor if you're interrupting somebody at dinner or something like that. So again, those are small things that to look out for as well.
This is very valuable advice, so I hope we are taking note of that. Megan, I know you didn't run for election yet, but do you want to comment on that from your experience, from the people you know?
Yeah, maybe just to mirror what's been said already. And then the only thing that I'd add is, I mean, I think the taking the step for any person, Irish or migrant, to stand for election is a difficult decision to make in and of itself. And I think, you know, you might be met with, when you're telling people that that's what you're doing, you know, I met sometimes people are like, oh, wow, really? You know, thinking about like, oh, that must be tough. But it's a bit of a knock to the confidence when you get a comment like that, you know. And so I think that piece around, because we do have those, you know, 6 migrant councillors in the country, or whatever the numbers are, you know, so the role models are low. And then when regular people that you tell, this is what I'm embarking on, and their response is not, yay, go get them, but, oh, really? Is that what you're doing? Then, you know, you just feel, you know, I guess, is it imposter syndrome? Is that what it is? And I think, you know, the network that we have through the Immigrant Council, and you know, other community work that I do is amazing, and we really lean on those people, and Liliana is a great support, and Teresa and Uruemu is, you know, everyone's a wonderful support. So you take your kind of confidence from that, but you know, when you get those knockbacks, you still second guess yourself. So I think that's another challenge.
Yeah, the power of networks, they will make the difference. So I have just one final question, and then because I'm really aware of time, and I think people can ask any other questions that they have now. I will take a look. And someone already made a question here, which is connected to the next topic, which is about social media. So I cannot really imagine a political campaign that's not going to be, at least to some extent, on social media. This is really key to reach voters. So, but then women in politics, they have a specific challenge, because they are usually the challenge of online, sorry, not the challenge, they are usually the target of online hate. And this is a little bit extreme. So there is some research that shows that this is one of the reasons that some women, not just migrant women, but women in general, they are afraid of entering politics because of the hate that they're going to face offline, but especially online. So would you have any advice for migrant women that are thinking of running for election, how they can deal with social media? Someone asked there if that's important to have a social media profile. How do you manage that? And especially how you can manage the trolls, the haters, how to deal with that, because this is a very real problem that affects women in politics. Can you comment on that, Sandra?
Sure. I mean, for me, it was a big point, a big element in my campaign. I used the social media to increase my profile, because I was very aware that pre-COVID, right, when people were coming in the bus and they were there for an hour, they were checking their phones. And I was very conscious about having this video that they were popping up in their phone, and they were having the chance to see my name and to see what was my strategy, what I was, you know, what the message that I wanted to send to them. And also because there is a group there that now is very into social media, then we need to make sure that we reach to them. So you have to be flexible. You have to make sure that you have all the different elements to reach everyone, all the different ages and all the different people that they are part of your constituency. But of course, as soon as you put yourself there, even when you have the posters and everything, you are exposing yourself to people. And this is something that, in my opinion, people need to be very clear if they want to run for the election. As soon as you run for the election, you automatically become a politician. Even if you have been doing all the amazing work back in the previous day or the previous month in the community, and everyone was very kind to you. As soon as you put yourself as a political candidate, there is somehow a new relationship that flourish. And for some people that is can have a negative component, right? And so when the people are starting to give you that kind of, they change the tone of voices, of the messages, or even the jokes that they do to you, like, you know, you have to be true to yourself. And even if the people are very negative, and it happens to me, for example, one case, and there was this person that it was very angry, and the way that he was texting me, it was very aggressive, right? What I decided to say is that I hear what you say, let's have a chat. All what I wanted to do is for him to get to know me as a person, and not as a politician, not as somebody that was running for the election, just as a person who was trying to make a difference. And we had the coffee. We met together. I didn't know that person. We met together, and we ended having a nice hug. And, you know, even though he didn't vote for me because he was not part of my constituency, he became a supporter from there. So, I mean, that's going to happen with everyone because, you know, there's different way, but I always, everyone that was coming with me with somehow an aggressive tone, I was coming back to them with an open mind, say, let's have a look, let's have a chat. And let's talk about what is your problem, what is there that is really concerning you, and see how we can solve together. So I think that could be a solution to that problem.
It makes a lot of sense because some of those people, they come from a place of not knowing the candidate. So they just go there and think they can say whatever they want. But trying to engage and show that you have political proposals make a lot of sense. Uruemu, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And simply, I don't engage with negativity on social media, and that's my choice. I know there's a lot of talk that, okay, you have to support people that are getting trolled, you have to stand up for yourself and whatever. And, you know, for me, good luck to anybody that can respond to all of that, all of that hate and vitriol that gets thrown at politicians, and especially female politicians, especially migrant female politicians. But I make it a point of duty not to engage, because I think I attended a social media training, and that would be something that I recommend to migrant candidates as well. And that is something that is possible as well if you're with a political party. They have funding to organize training for candidates, particularly first-time candidates. And it's, you know, don't engage with negativity on social media, because when you engage, there are people that are just there to bring you down. And you know, these are people that have enough time and that are experts at negativity, at, you know, you put out one answer, they come at you with something else. And the more you engage with them to try and change their mind, and I think Sandra gave a great example there, requesting a meeting. So don't go back and forth online, because it's going to end up with you spending time and not getting through and becoming frustrated when, you know, you invest in all that time and it's not getting anywhere. So again, I want to inspire, I want to encourage, I want to promote migrant involvement in leadership, because it's so important for us to get our message across, for us to get our voices heard. We need to be in these spaces where decisions are being made and where policies are being developed, so that when they come out, we can see ourselves as being impacted positively with these legislation, with these policies, with these regulations as well. So I do not engage at all, and thankfully they leave me alone most of the time. Like, even I don't even delete, I don't block. If you throw something at me, I just mute it. You can see it, I can't, my followers can't. So you are not getting, a lot of them thrive from getting that reaction, from getting that response. Whether somebody is giving as good as they're getting, they are, you know, you're feeding them. So for me, I don't engage at all, and I don't get disturbed. I got a couple of emails, and I remember one email saying, "Who do you think you are?" and whatever, and I just replied, "Thank you for your email, kind regards." And that was it. I never got anything else. So, you know, I don't have time, you know, to educate anybody online or to do anything like that. I know why I'm involved. I'm here to bring positivity and be a positive role model. I don't want my children to see me being heckled online as well. So that's why I hide any of those vitriol, because, you know, I don't want my children seeing those kind of things and thinking, oh God, look at what is happening to mom. And, you know, just to have my space as a positive space. When you come there, you don't see any negativity. I don't engage. I don't jump on any sound bites either on social media, because I just think, you know, again, that's distracting from the message. There's so few of us, so we really have a huge work to do. And when there's as many of us, then, you know, we can engage in the odd banter and whatever. But for me, because I really want more people to be inspired, to be encouraged to come forward, I just, you know, maintain a very safe, positive space on social media. And it's so important to have a social media profile, just in response to that question. And unfortunately, I have to leave. I have another event to jump onto again.
And that's okay. We are just about to finish.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Uruemu.
Take care.
That's very good. So Megan, can you comment on that as well, in your experience of social media, how to deal with online interactions?
Just to say that I'm going to follow all of Uruemu's advice. I think she's great. I hope that I would be brave enough to you know, arrange a meeting with someone that was giving me negative talk, like Sandra demonstrated. But as I said, I'm early days. I mean, I am kind of surprised, even just, you know, not quite 6 months in, I am kind of surprised at the negativity that you do get. And it even if it is some stuff would seem to be bots that are following you, that are, you know, I don't know, it's set up like a man that you might find attractive or whatever, you know, but clearly it's not a real account. I'm surprised, even if it's a regular, you know, automated program, someone's taken the time to set that up. Do you know what I mean? Like, am I that interesting? I'm just surprised that the attention is there. But it's like,
I think she's frozen for the moment. Okay. While she maybe is able to fix that, I think we don't have any further question here on the chat. So Sandra, what would you say for a migrant woman who is thinking about running for election? Which words of encouragement would you share?
I think the most important thing is to believe that you can do it, to believe, and that's to leave out all your fears, all your imposter syndrome, and believe that you can do it, because it's possible. It is possible. And that's something that I was missing when I was running the campaign, to believe that it was possible to achieve. Sorry, you want to continue with Megan, or?
Megan, we are just moving on to the final comments about encouraging candidates. Are you okay with that? Okay. Good.
Yeah, and then so to believe in yourself, and then the other thing is to be true to yourself as well. I think that's extremely important, because I mean, politics for many years, for decades, has been made by men and has been designed for men, and the strategies were created by men. And now there is a new component, a new element, and it's not only women, but also migrant women. So even though it's good to hear all the different strategies that you can get from everyone that is willing to support you, at the end of the day, you have to choose your own path. You have to be true to yourself. And even if it's something different that nobody has done before, it will see as something innovative, but at the same time, something fresh and good. And many people are sick about the old-fashioned way that is done in politics. So they want to hear something new, something fresh. So don't be afraid to be true to yourself and to be innovative and do in your own way.
Thank you so much, Sandra. So Megan, I was asking Sandra, and I'm going to ask you, can you, just for us to close, share your your advice, your words of encouragement for migrant women who are thinking about running for election.
Yeah, thanks, Valesca. I think, there are resources out there like the Immigrant Council, and there's a couple of other organisations that focus on women, although they don't focus on migrant women. Both See Her Elected and Women for Election are great organisations, and I would encourage people to look out by the ICI and there's other organisations as well. So suffice to say that, utilize the resources that are there for you and educate yourself and learn. And then those networks, I can't emphasize enough, really informally, but there's such wonderful supports. And maybe it is for, a connection to help you solve a problem, or maybe it is just for a phone call to, feel better about yourself, to be able to take the next step, But because we don't have those high school friends and those aunts and uncles and those cousins and our extended networks close by, then we're making our own networks. And this here in this room is that network. And I certainly, am available to help any and all if people want to reach out through ICI or whatever, because people have done that for me, and it's wonderful. Uruemu herself has been an amazing support for different projects that we've had going on, and just, out of her own time, which has been amazing. So use your networks and educate yourself.
Thank you so much. This is just great advice. Thank you for being this panel. The experiences, the stories, the advice you gave, I'm very sure that's going to be very, very relevant. And for people who couldn't be here today, this conversation is going to be on YouTube, so you can share this with the people you know. The next seminar, it's going to be about party politics in Ireland. So hopefully we are going to have this conversation where we can help people to understand better how the electoral system and the party systems, they work in Ireland. So this is already on the chat. It's on the 6th of April. So thank you so much. Enjoy your evening, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.